Hello student, my name is Assistant Professor Vaishali Sonawane. Presently I am working in S.V.K.T college, Devlali camp in the Department of Microbiology. Today's topic for today's lecture is chemotherapy and drug administration. This particular topic is meant for TY-BSc Microbiology student for semester 2. So let's begin with our lecture with a brief recap of what we have discussed in our previous lecture. So in previous lecture we have discussed about the definitions of which are associated with epidemiology. Then we have discussed about the sources and reservoir of a infection, and then we have gone through the various modes of transmission of disease. This particular topic is from the semester 1 of medical microbiology. Today we are going to discuss about the topic which is associated with semester 2. So today's session agenda is to study the chemotherapy. So under chemotherapy we are going to discuss about the definitions. Then we are going to discuss about the ideal characteristics of chemotherapeutic agent, and followed up by that we are going to discuss about the routes of drug administration. So what are the different routes by which a drugs can be administered into the body of patient. So this is the learning objective. The main focus lies on the chemotherapy, and under chemotherapy we are going to discuss the definition, we are going to study the ideal characteristics, followed up by the routes of drug administration. So let's begin with the chemotherapy. So when we talk about chemotherapy in simple word, it is the use of drugs, or it is the use of chemicals for treatment of particular type of infection. And the term chemotherapy, we all know, or basically we all correlate this particular term with the cancer treatment. So if we talk about chemotherapy, it is nothing but it is an aggressive form of chemical therapy, chemical drug therapy, which is used to for destroying the rapidly growing cancerous cell. And as I have told you that this particular treatment, or the term chemotherapy is basically used to treat the cancer patients. Now before moving on to the drug, or before moving on to the characteristics of any chemotherapeutic agent, we should have a brief overview of antibiotics or antimicrobial agents. So antibiotics are nothing but these are the chemicals, or you can say these are the organic substance which are produced by the microorganism and which inhibits the growth of other sensitive microorganism in the vicinity. So they are going to kill the sensitive organism surrounding their colony. So antimicrobial agent, if we talk about antimicrobial agent, it is nothing but the agent or chemical which is used to kill the disease causing bacteria or microorganism. Now this is a chart, brief chart, which is showing you the sources of various antibiotics. Antibiotics are produced by different microorganisms. Even your bacteria produces antibiotics. Then fungi are also involved in production of antibiotic, but the major category of antibiotic, major types of antibiotics are produced by streptomyces, or you can say it is produced by actinomycetes. So here are some examples, like Bacillus cetullus is associated with production of your bacitracin, then Bacillus polymixa is associated with production of polymyxins. Then different species of streptomyces are involved in production of different type of antibiotic. Streptomycin is the major antibiotic that is produced by the actinomycetes. Then there are some fungi like Penicillium notatum is associated with production of your Penicillium. Cephalosporium species are associated with production of cephalosporin. So this is a brief overview of different microorganisms which has a tendency to produce antibiotic, and the names of antibiotics that are produced by those microorganisms. So let's move on to the ideal characteristics of a drug. Now before moving on to the to study ideal characteristics of drug, it is very necessary to know that even though we are mentioning that these are the ideal characteristics of your particular drug, but there is no drug which fulfills each and every characters which we are included it as a ideal characters in ideal characters. So there is no drug which we can say is an ideal for treatment. Okay, so the very first characteristics which a drug should possess is the selective toxicity. Now, what is selective toxicity? Selective toxicity is nothing but it is the character, or it is the thing that your drug should only kill the harmful bacteria and it should not damage the host cell. So, it should be non-toxic to host cell, whereas it should only kill the disease causing bacteria. This is termed as your selective toxicity. The second characteristics is antimicrobial spectrum. Now, in our previous lecture, we have discussed about the spectrum of antimicrobial agents or spectrum of antibiotics. So, under that we have studied about broad spectrum antibiotic and a narrow spectrum antibiotic. So, broad spectrum antibiotic, as the name suggests, it has a spectrum, or it has a tendency to kill wide range of microorganisms. But when we talk about narrow spectrum antibiotic, inhibition or killing of microorganism, which we say, is limited to a particular type of microorganism or particular group of microorganism. So, when we talk about the ideal characters which a antimicrobial agent should possess is the antimicrobial spectrum. So, under that your antimicrobial agent or your chemotherapeutic agent should have a broad range of antimicrobial spectrum. So, there should be a broad spectrum drugs or broad spectrum antibiotic. Then next is that they should not cause any of the side effect. So, your drug should be such that it should only kill the particular type of your disease causing organism, and second thing is that it should not cause any type of side effect. So, this is one of the ideal characteristic of your drug. Followed up by that, no killing effect on normal flora. So, we all know that we have a normal flora, and normal flora plays important role in maintaining the what you can say flora of your body, or metabolism of your body. Like suppose if we say that gut flora, so gut flora plays very important role in the process of digestion and in order to maintain the proper digestive tract. So, when we talk about ideal characteristics, the drug which we say as an ideal, it should not has any type of activity against normal flora. So, or it should not disturb the normal flora of the human. But generally this does not happen for whenever we take any antibiotic. Like if we talk about broad spectrum antibiotic, which is going to kill large range of microorganisms. So, it is possible that that broad spectrum antibiotic can also kill the microorganism which serves as a normal flora. So, this is the actual fact, but ideally your drug should not harm the normal flora of our body. Then it should not get inactivated. So, the drugs which we generally take orally, right, they have to pass through the stomach, they have to pass through the various secretions that are there in the stomach. So, the drug should be such that it should not get inactivated when it enters inside the body. So, it should be the stable one. Then there should not be development of drug resistance. So, your drug should not enhance, or it should not promote the development of drug resistance among microorganisms. So, these are all are said to be the ideal characteristics of a drug, and all the drugs should follow all these characteristics. Apart from that, your drug should not be pyogenic, right? It should not increase the body temperature, it should not be cancerous, so it should not promote the growth of cancerous cells. So, these are all the ideal characteristics of a drug which a particular drug should have. Then moving on to next is the routes of drug administration. So, we are going to see what are the various routes by which a drug can be administered. So, before that we will see the definition of drug administration. So, what is drug administration? It is the route of drug administration in pharmacology and toxicology is the path by which a drug, fluid, poison or anything it enters inside the body. In simple words, when we talk about drug administration or a route of drug administration is the path from where your drug is going to enter inside the body. So this is the picture which is showing you the routes of drug delivery or the various routes of drug administration. You can see there is an oral route, there is a rectal route, sublingual route, intrathecal, transdermal. Then there is various routes like IV is there, IM is there, subcutaneous injections is there, tropical is there, otic is there, then your optic is there. So these are the various routes from where the drug can enter inside the body of a patient. So we are going to see all of these routes one by one. So first we'll see the oral route. Now when we talk about oral route is the route which is favored by many of the people, right? This is the most used route of drug administration and most preferred route of drug administration. So many of the drugs which are administered orally are in the form of your capsule, it is in the form of liquid, it is in the form of chewable tablets, it is in the form of soluble tablets. So these are the various forms of drug which enters inside which are used in oral route of drug administration. As I told you that it is the most favored and most convenient route of drug administration. Then it is the safest and least expensive as compared to other mode of administration. Basically, injection mode of administration, oral route is quite safe and it is quite least expensive. Then when we talk about taking a particular drug orally, so that particular drug, how it affect or how fast it is going to get effective or it is going to get absorbed is totally dependent upon the way which we are taking inside the drug. So there are some drugs which are taken on the empty stomach. Such type of drugs are generally preferred or it is taken to avoid the acidity. Then there are some drugs which are taken along with the food. There are some drugs which are taken along with some other drugs. There are some which can't be taken orally at all. So for that type of drug, you need to go for some other route of drug administration. Now, when we talk about oral route, basically this oral route, for oral route the drug should not get inactivated when it comes into gastrointestinal tract. Another thing which is applicable for each and every type of drug administration is how that particular drug is taken inside your body. So either it is given by injection or it is given orally or some other route. It is the blood vessels which absorbs, or blood capillaries you can say, that blood capillaries absorbs that particular drug and it allows that drug to enter into the lymphatic system and into the circulatory system, from where it can move to the from where it can work on the pathogen. Okay, so from there it can cause the killing of your microorganisms. So basically it is absorbed from via the blood capillaries. Now when a drug is taken orally, the drug enters inside your body via oral route, and when it reaches the intestine, in intestine the drug is slowly dissolved and the drug is absorbed by the blood capillaries that lined the intestine. Okay. Now when we talk about oral, the drugs which are administered orally, there is a disadvantage, you can say, that some of the drugs causes the irritation, or some can also result in what you can say formation of ulcers. Like suppose non-steroid drugs, or the most common drug is aspirin or dispirin. Such type of drugs generally leads to the irritation of bowel, or they can also lead to the ulceration of bowel, or they can harm the stomach lining. Other drugs are, there are some drugs which are very poorly absorbed by the digestive tract. So even though oral form is available, such type of drug which are poorly absorbed by the intestinal tract, you can't be given orally. Then when as I told you that oral route is the most preferred and it is the most convenient route of drug administration, but there are some conditions where oral drugs are not administered. So what are they, that condition we see? So first thing is that when a person cannot take anything via mouth, when a person is under serious condition and when the person is not able to take anything via orally, in that case oral route is not applicable. Second thing, when the drug administration or is required in rapidly as well as higher dose or higher concentration of drug is required. So under that condition even oral drug is not preferred. When the drug which is to be given is poorly absorbed, under that condition again other route of drug administration is followed. So this is all about the oral route of drug administration. Then we are going to move on to the injection route. The second mode is via various type of injections or paternal route you can say. So administration of by injection includes different routes. The major route is subcutaneous, that is under the skin. Second one is your intramuscular, that is in the muscle. The third one is intravenous, that is in the vein, and last one is intrathecal, that is in between your or in your spinal cord. So these are the various routes of drug administration via injection. So these are the images showing you how or what are the different ways of drug administration via injection. So in the first thing you can see intramuscular. So in intramuscular the needle is inserted into the muscles, and generally for this type of vaccine or this type of injection it requires a longer needle because that needle has to pierce the muscles. So since muscle is heavily loaded with blood capillaries, so the drugs which are required in higher concentration or which are heavy drugs that are generally given via intramuscular way. Now the angle, you can see the angle is also given. The angle of injection is 90 degrees centigrade when it is your intramuscular. Second one is your subcutaneous. So subcutaneous, it is into the subcutaneous tissue. The angle is near about 45 degrees centigrade. Then the next one is intravenous. So intravenous, the angle is near about 25 degrees centigrade. In this particular thing, the needle is superficially inserted into the vein. And last one is your intradermal, that is on the skin you can say. The next image also is showing the different layer of skin you can say, skin and the route where the injection is to be given. So you can see subcutaneous, intramuscular, intravenous, transdermal, and another route is also transplantation. So these are the images which is showing you the various route by which a drug is administered via injection. So let's see one by one. First one is your subcutaneous route. Now in this particular subcutaneous route, a needle is inserted into the fatty tissue just beneath the skin. So the injection is given just beneath the skin, and after the injection the drug it moves into the blood capillary. As I have told you before that for each and every mode of drug administration, ultimately your drug is going to reach into the circulatory system as compared to that of your oral route. If we see the comparison between injection route and oral route, the time period for working of your oral drug and working of your drugs via injection, oral route requires longer period of time as compared to that of your injection routes. So subcutaneous, so alternatively drug can also make it move to the lymphatic system. Now basically the proteins which are larger in size, and again the protein drugs you can't give it via oral route because if it is given orally it is going to get degraded by the various secretions that are present inside the stomach, and protein it requires it basically reaches via lymphatic vessels and it moves slowly because it is higher molecular weight. The subcutaneous route is basically used for most of the protein drugs that are destroyed by oral route. The next is your intramuscular route. So as we have already seen in previous slides that how that particular route is used. So in intramuscular, generally the injection or needle is inserted till the muscles of that particular patient, and in intramuscular, again as I told you that a needle, longer needle is required. Along with that, when a higher concentration of drug is to be given, under that condition intramuscular route is generally employed. Now because these drugs are now where, what are the different sites where this particular is given. Now since it is a heavy injection or it is at higher concentration, it is generally given at a site where there is ample amount of blood capillaries. So the sites of our body which has a larger number of blood capillaries, like upper arm is there, thighs is there, buttock is there. So these are the region where generally which is heavily loaded with blood capillaries, and therefore such type of intramuscular injection is given at that particular site, from where it is quickly absorbed and it is disseminated into the circulatory system. The next is the intravenous route. Now as the name suggests, intravenous route is the route in which the drug is directly entered into the vein or a circulatory system, you can say. So it is directly released into the circulatory system, as compared to that of other two routes or other routes, oral route or intramuscular or subcutaneous route. IV or intravenous route is the route which is the which is most effective, and when there is a very serious condition of patient, generally this particular route is used. But when we talk about using this particular route, it is quite painful because it requires an insertion of a needle that is called as your IV, from where again the drug is inserted into the body. So it is quite painful task. Apart from that, the solution which is generally used, they can cause skin irritation, so and can damage that particular site where the IV is injected. So as compared to that of any other route, it is quite painful, but it is very effective as compared to that of other routes of drug administration. So intravenous route is even though it is very effective, but there are some conditions where it is not used. Generally in those people who has overweight or which are abused and obese, or which faces the problem of obesity. So in that particular patient, generally the doctor is not able to get the vein, and intravenous, as the name suggests, it is generally inserting the drug into the vein. So if vein is not detectable, so in that particular type of people, it is really hard to find the vein and to inject the needle. Then but it is, as we have already seen, that it is the most effective. So when there is a serious condition, so under that condition such type of drug is given. The next one is intrathecal route. Now intrathecal route is the route in which a needle is inserted into the two vertebra, or in simple words you can say the injection is given or the drug is entered into the spinal cord of that particular patient. Now this particular route of drug administration is generally used when a person is suffering from any infections that is associated with central nervous system, like it is associated with brain or spinal cord. So but even this route is very painful, and some sort of anesthesia is also required to cause the numbness at that particular site of injection. So this is one of the route which can be used to treat the patient. So for example, anesthesia, analgesic, or you can say morphine, these are the drugs which are generally given by this particular route. So this is all about for today's lecture. So we'll have a brief summary of what we have discussed in today's lecture. So in today's lecture we have discussed about the chemotherapy, its definitions, we have gone through the ideal characteristics of drug, and then we have discussed about the various routes of drug administration. So there is an assignment for all of you you are supposed to enlist the various broad spectrum and narrow spectrum antibiotic. This is one task. Another task is to enlist various drugs that can be given orally and which can be given via injection route. Either it is your subcutaneous or intramuscular, intravenous or transdermal. So, these are the two tasks which are given to you. Then before winding up our lecture, we will have a brief recap of what we are going to discuss in our next lecture. So, in our next lecture, we are going to continue with the routes of drug administration. So, there are many routes which are still remaining. So, in next lecture, we are going to discuss some of the routes. Let's see. First one is we are going to discuss about sublingually, then buccally, rectally, vaginally, ocular route, otic route, inhalation, nebulization. These are the various routes which we are going to discuss in our next lecture. So, that's all for today's lecture. Thank you.